Hi guys, welcome back to the Home and Homestead. I'm Rebecca, and together we'll be doing some cranberry recipes. This might make a nice option for dessert. We'll be making some mini cranberry apple cobblers, or crisps. These are a really cute and fun way to serve dessert, so let's head to the kitchen and start preparing our apples for our mini cranberry apple cobblers. So here I have a large bowl of the remainder of our apple harvest. I have a combination of Honeycrisp apples and Zestar apples. So what I'm going to do today is use this handy contraption which peels, cores, and slices the apples. You just turn this little crank and it does those 3 steps for you. So I'm going to prepare all these apples and place them into this large bowl where I have some water and lemon juice. You could also use water with Ball Produce Protect. Other manufacturers make a similar product, and that just helps to prevent your fruit from browning while you're preparing it and before they're added to your recipe. So let's prepare all of our apples. So you're going to press this little lever and pull back the arm and then place your apple onto here. You press this lever again to advance it to the peeler mechanism here, and we'll start turning. This may need to be adjusted. There's a little wing nut here, so the blade can be moved forward or backwards depending on how close you want it to your apple. We'll just simply turn the apple here, and it'll go through the corer and the slicer. And there we go. So I'll just pull off the apple. And I'll be saving these peels, so I'll place these off to the side in a bowl and I'll freeze them so that later I can make some apple juice with this. Now if there's a little blemish to the apple or some extra peel, you can just simply cut that off and then just place them into the water with lemon juice. I have a bowl off to the side for the apple core and the stems and any scraps that I don't want to save. So just pull this arm back, place the apple on here, and turn the arm. There we go. So now I'm going to continue to process this large bowl of apples. As I said, this is the remainder of our apple harvest this year, so whatever I need for my recipe I'll use, and the rest I will place into the freezer so they'll be ready for recipes in the future. So while I'm processing these apples, I'll probably listen to an audiobook or some music, and when I'm finished with that, we'll come back for the next step. Alright, so we have our apples all prepared. They're nicely peeled, cored, and sliced, and they're sitting in this lemon water to help prevent the browning. And I have a nice big bowl of apple slices that I'm planning to make some apple juice with my steam juicer. You can check out my video on how I steam juice pear juice using the scraps and things for that. And I have a number of apple recipes, and I've been saving the peelings and scraps for that as well for this year. I do discard the cores and the stems and just keep the peels and nice pieces of apple flesh. So now what we're going to do is prepare our cobbler or crisp topping. So in this bowl I have a half cup of flour and 1 cup of brown sugar. I'll just mix them together. To that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Now I'll mix the flour, brown sugar, and the cinnamon together until it's all well combined. There you go. Now to this I'm going to add a half cup or 1 stick of cold butter that's been coarsely chopped. I'm just going to cut the butter into the flour, sugar, and cinnamon mixture that we just created. You just want to cut the butter until they're about pea-sized pieces. You could also do this step in a food processor and just pulse it until you get pea-sized pieces of butter as well. There we go, that's pretty good. Now to this we will add 1 cup of oatmeal, and this is the quick cook oatmeal. And we'll just stir that oatmeal in. There we go. So we have our cobbler topping all mixed and ready to go. So I'll place that off to the side here. And now we'll bring over the individual size dishes we'll be using today. And these are so cute. These are 6-inch miniature pie pans. And I think they're just so adorable for this type of a dessert dish. So that way each person can receive their own personal size portion of this cranberry apple cobbler. And I also prepared about a 1/4 cup of cranberries, and I minced it up in a food processor. You can check out my video on apple cranberry pork roast where I prepared cranberries that way, and I had some leftover from that recipe. I thought it'd be great for using for this dessert. The amount of cranberry you use will all be dependent on how sweet your apples are and how tart you would like your dessert to be. So now what we're going to do is add our apples and cranberry to these dishes. You can use a little miniature glass pie dish like this, or a ramekin, or maybe some mini loaf pans such as these. And you're going to use about a cup or 2, depending on the size of your dish, into each one of them. So I prepared all of the apples. If you were making this recipe and wanted to have a ballpark of how many apples, I would say about an apple per dish. And again, that's dependent on the size of the dish that you're using. I have a combination of Zestar and Honeycrisp apples here. The Honeycrisps say much more white in color, and the Zestars tend to slightly brown even in the lemon water. Then on top of that, we're going to sprinkle some of the minced cranberry. And again, this will depend on how sweet your apples are and how tart you like your dessert to be. I'm using some fresh minced cranberry, so just a light sprinkle will do. So now we can add our cobbler or crisp topping. I'll start with about a 1/2 cup of the topping per container. If you're using smaller ramekins and making more, I'll be making 6 of the dessert portions today. If you're using a smaller ramekin and it's a smaller amount of apples go in there, you can maybe try to get about a 1/4 cup of the topping on here. Either way, we want to use up our cobbler topping and evenly distribute it over our dessert. So let me move these aside, and I'll grab the other 3 miniature pie dishes. We'll add our apple. If you wanted to make a few a little bit smaller, you could just add a little less apple to it. And that'd be a little bit of a smaller portion for people. I'll make this pan the smaller portion. So we'll add some of this cobbler mixture on top. Got the cranberries. So add some cranberries. Place these smaller ones aside here. Bring these larger ones back. Just evenly use up the remainder of this cobbler or crisp topping. I have a little bit of the cranberry left, so I'm going to sprinkle that on the top just to give it a little bit more color. So we have 2 pans of individual sized cranberry apple cobblers. This pan is larger portion and the other pan is slightly smaller portion. So what I'm going to do is put this in the oven. I have it preheated to 350 degrees, and I'll bake these for between 35 and 45 minutes, or until the apples are nice and tender and the topping is nice and golden. Now with our extra apples, I'm going to freeze some of this, but I'm also going to create some in some miniature loaf pans here. These are nice and small. I do a little scoop in here, add some of the cobbler topping, and I can cover them with foil and bring them to a fall gathering and bake them so they're fresh there, or I can stick them into the freezer. And then the remainder of the sliced prepared apples I'm going to place into food saver or a freezer zip top bag and place them into the freezer, because then the apples will be all prepared for future apple recipes. Alright, our cranberry apple cobblers have finished baking. It took 45 minutes at 350 degrees. These are the larger cobblers, and here are the smaller ones. Let's get a little closer look here. So on the far left we have the larger cranberry apple cobblers, and closer here we have the smaller portioned ones. The topping is nice and crispy, and the apples have released some of their juices to create a little sauce, and it's nice and bubbly. So we're going to let these cool just slightly, and we can serve these warm. And we'll have a taste. Alright, here we have our cranberry apple cobblers, or crisps, and they're prepared in these really adorable 6-inch miniature pie dishes. They're glass. I can provide a link in the description below the video. And these will make a really cute and personalized presentation when everyone gets their individual sized dessert for your fall dinner, or even this would be a great option for a Thanksgiving dessert. Now you can add a dollop of whipped cream, or maybe even a small scoop of vanilla ice cream right on top just before serving. This would be so delicious. So today we prepared the remainder of our apple harvest, and we peeled, cored, and sliced our apples, used some for the recipe. I made some smaller portions in little tin containers and covered them with aluminum foil, and I'll be bringing them to a fall gathering where I'll bake them when I arrive, so they'll be hot and fresh for everyone to enjoy for a dessert. Well, if you'd like more inspiration on other recipes you can do with cranberries as well as apples, you can check out a number of videos I have on the topics, as well as my recipes in the kitchen playlist. And if you're looking for a sweet treat, I have a more defined playlist containing those recipes as well. Well, now let's just have a taste here. So the outside is nice and crispy crumble or cobbler topping. And the inside, the apples are nice and tender. You have little pieces of the cranberry, nice and bright red. A really tasty combination. So you can use the minced fresh cranberry like I did today, or if you have some whole cranberry that's canned, you can sprinkle or dollop a little bit of that into this, as well as this would be a great use for leftover cranberry after the holidays. Well, I hope you enjoyed our time together in the kitchen where we made these mini cranberry apple cobblers or crisps. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so yet, I would really appreciate you subscribing. And if you enjoyed this or any other videos that you watch, please give them a thumbs up. I hope you're having a fantastic day. See you next time. Take care.